I am Natalie. In my work as a healer, therapist, and in this podcast, I consult the spirits, guides, and counselors. I have been working this way for over 13 years, and this connection has existed from the day I entered this world. In this podcast, In the Heart of Being, a spiritual journey, the spirits, guides, and counselors connect me to the layers of being, dimensions, and the library of knowledge, where we connect the spirit with the body, which I love to share with you all. Will you join us in our quest, weaving the unknown into the known? So welcome. Today, Disha and I are going to talk about the ego. And a lot of things have been said about the ego. Many people talk about it. But still, we thought it would just be interesting to talk about it one more time, or maybe more than that. And Disha asked me actually, how does the ego shows itself in the world, in your life? And I said, like, with everything we do, the ego is there, you know? We think we are, in a way, free, but the ego is our real cage. It's the one that is always looking over the shoulder. It's the one that is judging. It's the one that is making ourselves small. It's the one that says, oh, look at me, I did this, you know. It's in every corner of who we are. That's why monks just go to the monastery. And even when they are there, they have lots of trouble to get rid of the ego. But actually, it's not that you get rid of the ego. It's that you will start to listen like the spaces in between. Because every time something happens, then there's a moment there's nothing. Even it's like a millisecond or not. But there is. And this is like the true sense of who we are. And then it comes. The idea, the thought, the response, everything. But actually like these small moments before something truly happens. It's like they say, like, you get lost in space. In a way we are. In a way we are. That's why it is sometimes very frightening for people when the ego dissolves. You get, in a way, lost in space. Because the ego is also the one that we, in a way, we like our cages. We like to be the victim. Most people do. They don't want to acknowledge it, but they do sometimes. Someone comes to me and they're like, oh, this is happening and this, and why is this happening to me, and stuff like that. I said, okay, yeah, we can talk about this, that you feel that way. I said, but then you will feel like this way for the rest of your life. You will never get out of it. If that's what you want, I'm fine with it, you know, it's your life. I'm not telling you need to be different, but do you like feeling this way? And then they say no. I say, okay, but then we can do something, you know. And the moment someone says no is the moment, is also this still moment in between. Because then they realize, wait a second, I am not this. I am something else. And then the ego comes back. They say, yes, but this person, this and that. So what the ego is also the one that blames the world. It's always the other person, or it blames you. And it says, well, it's because you are always like this, you know? You are always like this. And it will never change. So the ego keeps us small. So how to get rid of it, in a way? I don't think we need to get... The world is not ready for not having an ego at all. We would be running around like chicken without hat. we would actually.
Headless chickens.
Headless chicken, yeah. We would. And sometimes when people get like a psychosis, for example, or enlightenment experiences that are very close to psychosis most of the times, it is, the ego just, in a way, just loses its grip. And then those people, they are like rockets. They go into the sky and they have all these epiphanies. They understand and everything dissolves. And most of afterwards they get like this really frightful faces, because when everything starts to dissolve and no one understands, then fear comes. So that's why I say, like, if the ego will just let go of all of us from one moment to the next, then most people would be like out of their heads. Huh? So it loses its grips. But the way to get rid of the grip of the ego is start to notice. Start to notice. Is this really me? When like you meet this person, you always have this feeling about this person. We all do have certain person that, like, in a way, how you say that, rock your boat, huh? And you're like, oh no, okay, this person is coming, okay. But in the end, it is like the ego telling you you have problems with this person, but it's not true. It's just a thought. And even that things happen in the past, every moment is a new one. And when we start realizing that, we get into the middle of who we are. And when we are in the middle of who we are, the ego does not exist. So when I work with people and they cannot get out of it, I sometimes like do this practice. I said, okay, you're standing here, but take a step forward. And you leave that behind, You just take a step. How do you feel? And I say, huh? I feel different. Because the reason why is that you make them aware of that they have these thoughts. And when you just make them a step forward, then you get them into the present moment. And in the present moment, the ego never exists. Never. The ego is not here when we are here. Never. It's like a coat. You get home, it was cold, you take your coat off. And you're home. So the ego is like a coat. And when it is like this coat that is very tight, you're like, take it off. And when you take it off, you get into the present moment. So when we are aware where we are, like you and me are here now, our ego is out of the door, We are here. We are here. And it tries to distract us instantly. So sometimes it feels like this part of us that doesn't want to let go. But if it was really something that was who we are, it would have been with us from the moment we would have entered this world, from the moment we would have been born. But it develops. When we are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it develops in different ways. We can be the victim, we can be the conqueror, we can be the student, we can be the intellect, we can be the loving one, even if we can be the good person. But it is always like, there's always something that is opposite of it. Opposite of the good or the bad, So the ego is always about the good person, the bad person, the good idea, the bad idea, the good behavior, the bad behavior. This is where the ego is. And like we talk about this is a good behavior, this is a bad behavior. And when we do, our ego is just laughing, and said, okay, I got you. Things can make us upset in a way, But when we start labeling things, the ego gets in. And then we make a distinction.
So judgment.
Judgment, yeah. And when we start to judge, we lose the overall view. We cannot see the whole picture anymore. And this is what the ego always does. So it narrows our view of the world, our view of ourselves. Because we are the ones experiencing the world around us. Even that you sit in front of me, your experience is different than it is mine. And even that we understand each other on different levels, it's a different experience, which has to do with where you came from. But I believe that if we are in the present moment, we can experience the world the same way because the labels are gone. And when the labels are gone, the ego dies.
So perhaps can we talk about when we are young and we start to develop a personality, an identity? Why do we have that as part of our evolution, to develop that up to a certain age?
We wanted to experience how it would be to live in duality. It was a choice. We all made this choice. To live in this world, to experience duality, to see how it is to be in war or not, all those things. We wanted to experience this. So we come in with no ego. We develop ego, we develop personality. And I think and you will see when parents, for example, come closer to their leaving of this world, to their death, then all those things they believed or stuff like that, it just disappears. And most of them, not all, that's all what they always say, yeah, they are like children again, huh? In a way they are, because the ego is just disappearing, because its time is over. Its time is over. And then, like, the quality of the heart, actually the light that we are, starts shining again. So when my father died, he was on his deathbed, and it was very beautiful. And all his brothers and sisters came, and there was so much love. My father felt so much love for everyone. And then this woman that did the service came, and she was crying and crying. And my brother asked her later, he said, why were you crying that much? She said, he radiated so much love. And my father had bad things happening to him, but it disappeared. He left it in this life. He left it in this life. And he was ready to go to the other world. And then everyone left, and he said, okay, I am ready. Well, he had to wait a few more days, but he was ready, and he was not sorry about it. So when we see that it is just a part of the process we have as people, as humans, we start taking it less serious. And we start laughing about it. Said, oh yes, the ego got me. Oh man, you did it again. You did it again. And when you can laugh about it, you start to let it go. You start to take yourself less serious. Because it can only exist because we are taking it so serious. We are taking it as the truth. But what is the truth even, We talk about it. This is the truth. And then something new is discovered, and we're like, oh no, it was not the truth at all. But at that moment, we believed that it was. And the ego always says, like, this is the way it is. Yes, in my world, but in Disha's world, it may be different. And everyone around me. So it's not something that we just need to see it, that it is there, and that it has its function to understand how it is, to see both sides, because sometimes we're in the good and sometimes we're in the bad, because we have both things inside us. It would be stupid to say, I am only good. The moment I say that, I'm actually pretty bad, because I am not good and I am not bad. I am the middle. And sometimes I do good deeds and sometimes I do bad deeds, comparing to who you ask, because that is also different in different parts of the world. But actually I am the middle, experiencing both, because I wanted to experience this. And for that I needed the ego, because if I would have still be the light, I still am, when I'm in the middle. But if I would have been that from the birth until today, then I would not have experienced both of these sides. That's why we have it in our lives.
So what I'm hearing is to feel acceptance for who we are, where we are, knowing that we are enough, complete as is, the way we are. And from that place of acceptance, then also means there's less judgment.
Yeah.
And more trust.
Yeah.
And what does that trust lead to?
Trust in the end leads to that you experience the middle more and more. Because in a way then I'm not much about learning lessons, but then you have learned your lesson. You have you growed actually. You made a step forward. Because most people say, I don't accept this part of me, it needs to change. then it will never change. Because it is a part of who you are. We are capable of very beautiful things, and we are all capable of really bad things. Just create the situation, and we are. It depends how much of the middle you already know, and then perhaps you do less bad things. But we are all capable of everything we see in this world. Everything. We are. And the moment we start to realize that and embrace all these parts, then it becomes less and less and less. And the light in the middle of who we are starts to grow. And then we know we have this sense of well-being inside ourselves. We have these feelings of trust, of wisdom, of knowledge, of guidance. This is what comes. But before we get there, we need to know all pieces of ourselves and be in peace with them. Even if we think, oh, this is a really bad behavior of myself. Okay, I'm ignoring it. It's not me. But it is you. It's also you. And actually it is not. It's just like the coat you put on when you entered this world, when you wanted to experience what it was like, You grew up in India as a woman, which was not easy. You told me about it. And I grew up here in a family that, that did their best. But if I would have done nothing in my life, it would have been fine. So, but even for you and for me, we felt there is more. There is so much more in this life. And we had to work for it to get there. But we wanted this. We wanted to work for this because we knew there's so much aliveness actually. And we both became women. And that we did choose. Because in most parts of the world, this was less difficult here than where you grew up. But still it was. It's difficult to express yourself. Because most of the times it's not accepted. But we wanted to make, in a way, the change. So that's, in the beginning, we needed a really strong ego.
Interesting.
Yeah, we needed a strong ego.
So the ego, in a way, also, it can be a force for good, so-called, I say good with, in the sense that it can help us to have certain experiences from which we learn our lessons. So it's not all bad.
No.
It can help us to grow as individuals, to learn our lesson. And to what end do we need to learn those lessons? Why?
What we are just wants to experience. It just wants to experience. And we have all been bad in the past, or we are now, And we want just to know, how do we talked about that. How do we know what life is really about if we just are in one corner? Just this tiny corner. We don't know the rest. So the way to know the rest is to experience it fully. Not just by putting your toe into the water. No, just go underneath and feels like you're drowning. And then you come up again, So, we need to feel all the parts. And from that we learn and we understand. And we see other people struggle. But we know they will serve us again, They will serve us again. Maybe not this life, maybe another life, or in 10,000 lives. But in where we came from, time is irrelevant. Everything is here right now. All the possibilities, all of who we are. And we just want to feel. So you have many places you can go to as a spirit. And this is one of the actually most interesting worlds. We have emotions. Which most people that want to...
we have heart.
We have heart, yeah. And he said, we are moving to a part or to a place where the emotions will disappear. I said, yeah. But imagine if everything is steady. This is what happens when emotions disappear. Everything is steady. It can be very boring. And when it's steady, we will not experience it as boring, because even that will not exist anymore. But we still have emotions. And actually, they're really amazing things, Even if we are angry, or when we are sad, it teaches us something. Or when we are amazed with what we see. Those are all parts of these emotions. And you have like the lower vibrational emotions, and the higher ones then become more feelings. But it's only possible because we have ego. Because we see the distinction between good or bad, even if it is true or not, but it is for us. That's why we can feel all those things.
I'd like you to perhaps talk about now the manifestation of ego in a material sense in the world.
In what way?
So, when we have our personality, our identity, growing up, we also associate that with things we want to create, manifest in the world, which I believe is what our ego comes into play with. And when we are manifesting those things, when we are creating those things, how does our ego work in that respect?
Well, when you're more bound to this world, then you're more prone to the gadgets of this world, like the gold and the car and the stuff like that. So you create on that level. So I need to have this, and the need to have it creates for a lot of people what they want. But there's another part that most people, they want it, but they never can create it. And that has to do with the fact that they believe they deserve it or not. And when people believe they don't deserve it, they can run after it for their whole life. And sometimes they get little pieces of it. But most of the times they don't get there. So people that are really good at this kind of manifestations, really, they also have like this really big ego. So I am the one that deserves this. You don't deserve it, but I do, And then you have people that start to create from the heart. They create different things. And then it's not like a desire anymore. It is for the next stage in the development where they are, this creations needs to happen. You understand what I say?
When creating from the heart, so this is what I understand. The creation happens not for what it brings to the creator, the end result, but for the want of creation, so the process, because that is necessary to express what one is experiencing.
In a way, it is, like we all want to develop in life, even if people say they're fine with where they are. We came here to experience and to grow. Yeah. So some people create in a material world, and that's okay. That's what they wanted to experience. And others create from the heart. And the heart just wants you to go further and further and further. So it's not that we don't have any longings anymore, but it is like, it would be so beautiful if that would be in my life. And then you let it go. It would be so beautiful. And then you would think by yourself, why would it be beautiful? Because then somewhere you leap forward. So you create something that makes you jump, but also has an effect on the environment. That's when we start creating from the heart.
So the egoic creation would be more focused on me, whereas a creation from heart would be more focused on the experience that it creates, not just for me, but perhaps as a result, affecting the environment.
Yeah, and the way you are being called.
Yeah, okay.
You're being called to your mission.
That's what it means. Okay, Interesting.
And that's actually the difference. The first ones are like in the material world, and perhaps in another life they did this mission of the heart. It's not like when they are at the other side that they are less evolved. There's just a way of thinking. But when you create from the heart, you are being called. You're being called, and you hear this calling. So when it is the purpose in your life to create from the heart, then if you get into the material world, this doesn't give you the satisfaction. And even when you get stuck here, like life is giving you opportunities to get out of it, to get out of it, to get out of it, because it is not your life purpose. And then when you start following that, then it starts to create the environment where you need to do what you're supposed to do. Yeah. And most of the times, it's like you have this spiral I am making on the table. It goes outwards. But when I talk about this, I make the spiral inwards. Inwards.
Interesting.
Yeah, you go deeper inside yourself until you are in the core and you found your true calling, actually. But the true calling is never something we can think of. The true calling is something you live. You just live. And from there, when you connect it to the true calling, the outside circle starts to move again. The spiral starts to move out again. Because you have found your true calling. You have found your mission. And with that, the ego is just, you use it sometimes as a tool. But actually, it's not. We cannot talk about the ego anymore because it's not about good and bad. It's when you get to this core, to this true manifestation of your calling. Actually, the thoughts become less and less. And then the ego disappeared.
And that's why they say that if all of us started taking care of our inner world, then the outer world takes care of itself in a way.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And then the longing we have for community or peace or equality is just there. Next time, me and Disha will talk about purpose. Most of us long for a purpose in our lives, and we start searching for it day after day, but rarely find true purpose. For true purpose is not something we think of. For true purpose, we need to trust. And from trust, it will develop into guidance. And then everything you need will be on your path, waiting for you to unpack and to live your true purpose. But more about that in our next episode. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the Q&A section on Spotify or your own favorite podcast app. And then we will dedicate one or more episodes to the questions and the answers. In the meantime, you can connect with us on natalienevely.nl and on Instagram, in the heart of being. Thank you for listening. See you next time.